Serious, students of Reddit who had a sexual relationship with a teacher. How did it start and how did it turn out? It started innocently enough. She was my chorus teacher, fresh out of college and only 6 years older than me. My brother WAA actually dating her friend from high school. I used to cut class and say I had a music lesson and we'd just hang in the music room, talk about books, music, movies. Then she started complaining about her relationship a lot, needing hugs, which I was more than happy to help with. It eventually turned to making out, and we finally started hooking up when she gave me rides home after school. I honestly felt like I found $1 million but couldn't tell anybody about it. It was weird. Then she got weird, asking for her hugs in front of the entire class. I knew everyone knew. I started riding home with my friends again, then she started just showing up at my house. Had a very awkward convo with my dad who knew exactly what was going on but was so impressed he just kept saying damn she's pretty. Ghosting hadn't been invented back then, but I did the best I could. Eventually she chilled out. A few months later we stopped by her room during our normal hang cess time, and she apologized. Told me she was just going through a lot with her shitty boyfriend and needed some attention from someone that actually liked her. We didn't talk much after that. I graduated soon after, but were friends on Facebook and she actually married a decent guy and has a nice family. I'm very relieved we were never found out. It would have been devastating to both of us. Your dad knew but didn't care. Mine may not count but I was 21 and in college and using a Cupid and I matched with this cute girl who's a grad student. We hit it off and our fields of study are similar but not the same so there's no chance there will be a conflict of interest or anything so we go out on a date to a dive bar, get a bit drunk, hit it off, go back to her place to drink more and screw. A few days later the semester starts and among my classes I'm taking a statistics for people who can't do math class and who should be my teacher but miss let me lick wine off her tits for like ethics reasons. I couldn't keep screwing her while she was my teacher but once the semester was over we hooked up a few more times. Miss let me lick wine off her tits made me laugh a lot. Thanks for that. I fell in love with the workshop supervisor at my university that guides the workshop that I need for my education. She is about a year older than I am. I am doing some small arts and crafts and leatherworking. She was interested in getting something and she bought something custom. I can't remember how it started out but for some reason or another, we had some drinks which ended in a night spent together and a sexual relationship. We discovered an attraction to each other. She went to the faculty director with the situation and explained it. Since she cannot give marks on my work and is only a guide in the eyes of the university they approved of the relationship. That was about 3 years ago. We are still together as I am finishing my education. The relationship moved on from the sexual flirt which it all started with to something deep. We live together for 2 years now and she helps me something with running the 2 companies that I set up aside my study. When I finish my education next year I will even propose to her small edit. I just want to clarify that at the start of this relation we well pasted the 18 years old mark. I like the part where she went clean to the faculty director even though she knew she could have gotten into some serious trouble. Glad it worked out man. All the best. There was a super hot student teacher that was at our school, so he was only like 22-23 maybe. Does that count? I was 17 and it was at our graduation dinner when we had snuck a bottle of passion pop in, so we were pretty tipsy. I told him I always thought he was hot and before I knew it his hands were down my pants. We still had about 3 weeks to go before we left school, so spent the next week fucking around the school and nearly getting caught a bunch of times. It was pretty fucking hot tbh and I still think about him from time to time. As a person who supervises student teachers this story gives me anxiety. Had a crush on one of my grad school teachers for 1.5 years. I was into everything about her. Looks, brain, everything. I ended up teaching the same subject many years later and I still use the notes and materials from her classes with my own students. She was engaged to someone else so I never even thought about anything ever happening. It was a nice fantasy. Then out of the blue, she calls my cell phone and tells me that she's thinking of getting into yoga and knows that I am into yoga. So would I get a drink with her and tell her more? I was not exactly experienced with hookups and I actually took her at her word. I went expecting to talk about yoga and go home afterwards. We ended up getting totally wasted, making out in the middle of a bar. and then I walked her home where I kept saying I am sorry and this definitely isn't happening, and I'll just get you to your door and go home. It did happen, but the joke was on her. She got a few seconds of the worst sex of her life and then got to listen to me in the bathroom for a while. The next day she found me in the hallway and told me that it was a huge mistake and asked me not to tell anyone. Nobody would believe me anyway, so I agreed. I can honestly say I wish the entire thing had never happened. She got married and moved on with her life. I ended up having to take her husband's class before he could graduate. She got a few seconds of the worst sex of her life and then got to listen to me in the bathroom for a while. Fuck, that stings. When I was 17 I had a fake it and went out to the bar with a couple older friends after a hockey game. We met a group of girls out and we hung out for most of the night. I ended up going home with one of the girls. We hooked up that night. We exchanged numbers and I left in the morning. So Monday comes around, I go to school and I walk into my first period class and the same girl I hooked up with is the supply teacher. Her face was about as red as an apple and I was strutting the my seat like Vince fucking McMahon. I now need to hear this story from her point of view. Tifu. When I was 19 I dated a professor at my university for a few months. I wasn't his student but he taught some of my friends. We met randomly at a club, and I had no idea he was a professor at my uni until a few days later when we started texting. He was really hot. He had dark hair and bright blue eyes and told me that his female students would flirt with him in office hours. He was 33, so very young for a prof but pretty old for me at the time. It was fun for a bit. He was not happy when we realized he taught some of my friends. The day we realized he taught my friends was when I was at his apartment a couple weeks after meeting and I asked to see some of his class materials. He thought it would be interesting if I could tell the difference between a BS essay and a great essay. Even if he wasn't familiar with the subject. So I started reading and realized the BS essay with the failing grade had my friend's name at the top. He was very upset because apparently it's some sort of privacy violation that I was looking at a failed assignment. But I thought it was sexy that he thought my friend's essay sucked. Really played up his position of power in my mind. I like how he waltzes into ethical landmines. I was 16 when I was starting to figure out my sexuality and I had a massive crush on my teacher. I was absent from class for a bit, and she offered to help me catch up. We exchanged numbers. She's a good 18 years older than I am. By the end of the semester we were talking non-stop and it became quite flirty. I knew she was not good for me, but continued anyway. Nothing sexual happened between us but it became pretty serious. Then something just clicked inside her and she didn't talk to me as much and didn't want to spend as much time together. We drifted apart and she moved to another school for a better job opportunity. I saw her a few times after that just for lunch or coffee, over the course of 2 years. But I haven't seen her in 2 years. I wish I could get an explanation as to why she left me high and dry. I mean, I get it. I was 16. But then she shouldn't have gone after me. I often get the urge to message her, because I miss her. I miss having that connection with someone. Honestly would have sworn I loved her. Edit. Spelling. Bro, you okay? Read the last part and got hit with a bombshell of feels. Hope you are okay. I slept with one of my professors in college. At the time I was 19 or 20 and she was in her mid-30s. I went to see her during her office hours. We talked for a few minutes and when I went to leave she gave me a long hug and told me, "You give really nice hugs," as she held onto my arms. I asked for her number and went on my way. We exchanged a few flirty text messages over the next few days before she invited me over to her apartment to help her hook up a new TV she had bought. We ended up sleeping together about 10 times before she moved away to take a new job at a different school. You give nice hugs. Hey, can I have your number? Nice. Slept with a teacher in college. I was 18, he was late 20s. He was hot, I was hot. Went to his house, had one of the best sessions of sex I've ever had. He decided to only have it as a one-time thing, which I agreed to. Never told anyone about it because it was consensual and no one's business. We do remember having a conversation with him after the act in college with other students present and he said something which he had said while we were together at his house. Never blushed so hard in my life. Now we want to know. My religious studies college professor, she was hilarious and brilliant and always brought her interests up in class and they usually aligned with mine. It started off with what felt like on-topic to class discussions, then into more friendly casual conversations about books and movies. Then it definitely transitioned into flirting. Which was weird because I'm also female and had never had feelings for another girl, so I thought it could just be some weird fantasy in my head and I was just making something out of nothing. Anyways, fast forward, semester ends, I'm out of her class. I submit my final at noon. By 1 PM, she emails me my final grade and says TM all done submitting your grades, so you're officially no longer my student. Congrats on passing the class and good luck. So I sent back an email with a song attached and then the emailing went on from there before we officially hung out, which led to sex, which led to a 3-year relationship. We moved in together for about a year, but it ultimately didn't work out cause we wanted different things long term, but we ended on good terms and I'm grateful for the relationship now 5 years out, as it helped me realize what I want in a partner. I now have an amazing boyfriend and I heard she recently got married to a woman she started dating after me. Edit. Thanks for the love, guys. I'm glad my story made some people smile. And for everyone asking about her teaching religious studies, TD, just like to clear up that my major was in religious studies from an analytical perspective. I studied cults. Specifically, all of the religious studies classes at my university were purely academic, for people that found religion interesting but didn't necessarily have to practice. She was teaching an introductory course on the philosophy of religious studies. She herself was not religious or affiliated with an religion or new religious movement. You know, it's nice to read one of these that have a good ending. Thank you for sharing. If you enjoyed watching this video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our channel for more video updates.